Hello, welcome to the first video on this channel in a little bit. I am Stuart. I am one of the three people that run Trinico, and I'm here to talk about my cancer experience. I'm 19 years old, um, and yeah, so this is just a video sharing my cancer experience, mainly because when I was going through cancer, especially my Hodgkin lymphoma is what I had. Um, when I was going through my cancer experience, I wanted to watch a lot of videos about people's experiences with Hodgkin lymphoma. And so I would comb through YouTube, and I think it's just nice to put another video out there. If someone who has Hodgkin lymphoma or knows someone who has Hodgkin lymphoma or any kind of lymphoma and wants to know a little bit about what happened for me at least, they can find that out. So yeah, I just want to jump right into it. So early to mid-September of last year, I noticed a symptom of Hodgkin lymphoma. I noticed a lump in my neck, right here, about the size of a golf ball. Um, Concerning, very, very concerning. Um, I went to my doctors, they checked it out. They mentioned, and I kind of Googled by this point and checked, and it said like 9 times out of 10, this is an infection reaction, and this is just like your lymph nodes are swelling up because you've had an infection, which makes sense because about a week or two before that, I got a really, really bad dental infection. I cracked one of my teeth, and I was all swollen like a dog that just eaten a bee. Um, and so I had a really puffy face. That's what I thought it was. And then 2 weeks pass, and at this point he'd given me some antibiotics as well. 2 weeks had passed, and I went back. That had stayed the same size. Well, actually, it had gone a little bit bigger, but pretty much I hadn't gone away, which is the main issue. Which it should have done by that point. And so he checks it, and he's like, "Oh, hospital. You need hospital. You need to get a biopsy done to check out what that is." Just another note, my husband is sat right here, right over there, and he's gonna stick his little hand in whenever I get something wrong, because a big part of this is that I can't remember very well a lot of stuff that happened. Like a lot of this is written down here, and I had to comb through a calendar, a shared calendar on my phone that my husband had put stuff into while everything was happening. So yeah, went to second appointment. He's like, "Oh, that's bad." At this point, I start stressing. I think, okay, this is actually like real. Like this could be cancer. This could be like a tumor or something. Um, Although most people, I don't know if they genuinely believed, but they wanted to believe. At least people around me thought, no, it's just an infection or it's like fatty tissue, which is an actual thing that like people in my family had gotten before. There's a bit of fatty deposit on on their neck, but not that size. And so I went to the biopsy, which was on the 31st of October. So there was about a 3.5 week gap between my second appointment at the doctor's on the 9th of October and then the 31st of October, Halloween. When I went in to get my biopsy done. Um, it wasn't comfortable. I went in, they shoved a big tube down my throat to look at my neck on the inside, which was actually pretty alright. But then the biopsy they did, that was uncomfortable. They sliced open right where the bump was, and they stuck in like a reverse syringe into my neck to get a bit out, and I had to do it 3 times, and each time they went deeper and they wiggled, moved stuff, and it was like, oh my god, what's happening in there? And one of the worst things was, I'm pretty sure it was like a trainee or an intern or like a nurse that was doing it for the first time, because there was like a senior like nurse with them telling them what to do, and then they were wiggling around, and eventually they get a higher person, I don't know what they were, to come in and be like, okay, no, this is how you do it, and then they were wiggling around and yanking. It was pretty traumatic, but you know, you do what you got to do. So they did that, and then they also took an ultrasound on my neck, where the lump was, and they could see like blood vessels were in it and all that. This was like an actual lymph node. This wasn't fatty deposit. This was a lymph node, a swollen lymph node. So I was like, oh, okay, not great. Um, and one of the pretty like horrifying things was they took a picture right here of my swollen lymph node, and then they went around and they were just scanning stuff, and they were going around like, They went here on this side of my neck. They went, hmm. Took a picture of that bit. I was like, oh no, what they found. Um, so yeah, that wasn't fun. And then they sat me down after my biopsy and they're like, okay, concern here is that you have cancer, Hodgkin lymphoma. That is the main concern. We're going to run the biopsy test and we'll get back to you in about a week about what the results are. So I was like, okay, cool. I went to the. I think my husband wants to interject. We didn't know it was Hodgkin lymphoma until way later. Okay, yeah. Um, they knew it was lymphoma. They knew there was probably going to be lymphoma of some kind, not exactly Hodgkin lymphoma. Um, so yeah, they did that. I went out into the waiting room where my husband and my dad were waiting, and I was like, "It looks like cancer," and that was kind of like, "Oh, okay." I was hoping it wouldn't be. And so that was a bit real. That was a bit real. And I think a bit emotional for everyone. We went home, and the next week, while I was on my way to university, because I was in my second year of university at this point, just at the start of it. Well, technically not the start of it, because this is in November now, the 7th of November, that Thursday. I was on a bus from where I live to Glasgow, where I go to university, and just as it was coming into Glasgow, I got a call on my phone. I answered it, and they're like, "Hey, you have cancer. Bye." was exactly. They said a little bit more, but I actually have the call log. The conversation lasted about a minute. That was it. And so yeah, I just straight up said I had, and this actually I'm going to correct my corrector over here. They said I had Hodgkin lymphoma because the biopsy showed them I had Hodgkin lymphoma. This was not found out later on. This was I knew from a pretty early start. This was Hodgkin lymphoma. So ha. Um, but yeah, so they said I had Hodgkin lymphoma. I was kind of a bit like, okay, stun faced, waited, bus went into bus station, got off the bus, went up to my uni, kind of just stood there, then sat down on like some stairs. And I called my dad. I was like, yeah, cancer. He's like, oh, okay. Told my family, and then I called my husband. I was like, cancer. He's like, oh, that's not good. And then he hung up on me because he's evil. No correction. But yeah, so that wasn't fun. Um, After that, a series of tests were done. So this was that day I got my test results, the 7th of November. From the 22nd of November to the 9th of December, I had tests. On the 22nd of November, I met my hematology doctor for the very first time. It's my cancer doctor. He ran me through everything. He was like, okay, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. We need to do a bunch of tests before we determine what we're going to do. And he mentioned that there was a trial that I could get done to reduce the effects of chemotherapy. And so yeah, that was pretty much everything. He just ran me through the whole list, and I liked it. It was very practical, which I liked. Still a bit like shocked, kind of not processing anything, but you know, it is what it is. And then, from what I can tell, 5 things happened. Again, he'll correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, I had a breathing test, a heart scan, a PET scan, and a CT scan, as long as well going to a fertility clinic to, you know. And I think maybe around about sometime at this, again, he'll correct me if I'm wrong. I remember going to a like late night clinic at some point because I had like blood in my stool. Like this is the first time it happened to me. Like I had blood in my stool. I'm pretty sure this happened before chemotherapy. No? Was this after the first one? I was wrong. It was after the first one. I had blood in my stool. I'll get to that then in a minute. So I went through all these tests. This was over like a 2-week period. I had all these tests done. And then on the 11th of December, I had my second appointment with my hematology doctor. And he told me, okay, this is the business. You have stage 3A classical Hodgkin lymphoma. You have tumors in your neck, the base of your neck, your chest, your right abdomen, your left abdomen, and your spleen. It's kicking about. It's doing business on your body. And so there was 2 chemos in general for like I think for lymphoma patients. No, I'm not going to generalize. For Hodgkin lymphoma patients at least, there's ABVD and there's BCOP. BCOP is stronger. I didn't get that one. I got ABVD. That was the one the doctor recommended to me. And the start time for that was in 2 days. So it was all this information. I had stage 3 cancer, whatever. 2 days after that, I started chemotherapy. So yeah, 11th of December was this appointment. 13th of December was when I had my first chemo. Friday the 13th. Um, had my first chemo, and it was the worst experience of my life. I had chemotherapy. I went home. I slept kind of shittily for 6 hours. I woke up, and for the next 5 days, I did not sleep. And I was in A&E 3 times. I already I tried to do this video like half an hour ago, and I spent like 30 minutes just on those 5 days. Horrific, worst experience of my life, most likely caused by anxiety. I had like the shakes. I couldn't remain still. I had really like chills and heat problems and whatnot, and I just for some I reacted really badly to the chemotherapy. So yeah, worst 5 days of my life. I'm not going to go over it too much. I did not sleep for 5 days, and that's not like an exaggeration. I did not sleep for 5 days. Um, Again, I was at A&E for 3 times. It was the worst time I've ever been alive. I think my husband would also agree. It was one of the worst times he's been alive as well. It was horrific. It was horrific. Um, it was so bad that on the 5th day, I threatened to kill myself to my husband, to my dad, to my aunt, which is now sadly permanently on my medical record as suicidal ideation secondary to insomnia. Um, but yeah, I threatened to kill myself because it was a lot. 5 days of no sleep when you just get something that makes you incredibly tired. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But eventually, I got some sleep back and some more sleep back and some more sleep back, and that took a lot of work with a psychiatrist to do. Um, and I could spend like hours talking about just the sleep portion of my chemotherapy because it was that full on and intense. Um, but for the next couple chemos, I did not sleep in the first couple days each time, and this caused me to end up in A&E one more time after the first 3 times. And it wasn't A&E, it was something else, like a medical. It's a term that I can't remember, and it's for not medical emergencies that patients are going to die right away, but they do need to be seen. It was something else like that. So yeah, then for the next couple of chemos, um, and after the first 5 days, I got prescribed diazepam, which is an anti-anxiety medication, also a bit of a sedative, and I got prescribed. I think it's called Zopiclone. I can't remember, or Zopichlorides. I can't remember. It was something. It was a sleeping medication. Didn't work. Just didn't work. Straight up didn't work. Um, but again, I was able to regain a bit of my sleep at the further away from pretty much as soon as my like symptoms were dying down after a chemotherapy, my sleep would regain, and I was able to sleep more. And then so yeah, that was the first chemo, and then eventually Christmas, yippee! I actually had a really nice Christmas. Everyone was there. Everyone was very kind. Everyone was very happy that I'd gotten sleep back and stuff. So leading into my next chemotherapy on the 27th of December, which is one day after Boxing Day. Second chemotherapy, there's 2 things. I had bad pain in my arm, not good, and I started to lose my hair. I'll cover the hair one because that's kind of simple. I went for a shower, hair was falling out in pretty big clumps, or just noticeably, and I was like, okay. Next day, went down, bzz, shaved, bald, bald. Um, that was fine. I don't care too much about my hair anyway. And a pain in the arm. That was a pain in the ass. That was really, really bad. It was just so constant, and you couldn't get rid of it no matter what you do. Because another big thing is, sadly, with ABVD chemotherapy, is you can't take ibuprofen when you're on it, and like paracetamol does not work for me. So it was really, really bad. It was constant pain in the arm. end up having an appointment with the doctor, and he's like, "Yep, you need a PICC line, which is a peripherally inserted central catheter that gets shoved into your arm and it goes right to your heart and it inserts chemotherapy through that way instead of going through your veins." Eventually, my veins were like, stop poisoning us. And so when you just dump it into the heart, it disperses it easier, and it can take more damage. So yeah, I got that put in. That was pretty fun. That was put on the 8th of January. Um, and then 2 days later, on the 10th of January, I was hospitalized. I had, and I'm going to just go over all of it. So, severe neutropenic fever but neutropenic fever is what my doctor called it. Severe neutropenic fever is another name. Neutropenic fever, neutropenic sepsis is another name. Febrile neutropenia is another name. Pretty much, my neutrophil count was low. I have no idea what neutrophils do. I don't have a fucking clue, but they were low. The average is meant to be between, but the nurse when I was in hospital told me between 4 and 8, but through Google I think it's closer to about 2 and 7 is the range, and mine was 0.4, which isn't good, by the way. Not good. So I was in hospital, but only for 4 days, and to be honest, it wasn't that bad. They just shoved me with some IV antibiotics, and I was fine. But yeah, not a good time to be alive. But luckily, I was out 4 days, and if you could do math, 4 days after the 10th of December, including the 10th of December, is the 14th of January, and that was my husband's birthday. So I got to actually go home and celebrate my husband's birthday with him, which was very, very nice. So yeah, got back home, and then I got to enjoy like a day of peace away from chemotherapy, and then on the 16th I was dumped right back into chemotherapy, and yeah, just went through the whole process again, struggling to sleep, whatnot. But again, I was seeing my psychologist more and more at this point, and she was helping me more and more with controlling my anxiety and controlling my sleep. And at some point during this, she kind of didn't tell me that my temperature problems were in my head, but just said, anxiety can control you to feel like really, really warm and stuff. And so when I went to bed at night, I was just like, no, okay, this is just my brain making me feel warm because I'm like anxious. And it kind of just stopped. Like the warmth, I still feel like cold during the day, but the warmth, the extra like heat and stuff kind of just stopped, which is really nice. So yeah, that happened. Time passes. 11th of February, I have my mid-treatment PET scan. You get a PET scan at the start of treatment to tell you how bad your cancer is. You get a PET scan in the middle to tell you if the treatment is working, and you get a PET scan at the end to see if the treatment fully did its job. So this was the middle one. And this was to see if my ABVD chemotherapy was doing its job, and luckily it was. Which was really big news, although I didn't process it as big news, because still during this period, I'm not there. I am not there. My brain is gone. I wasn't processing anything. I was like a shell. I was just watching things or trying to watch things, like YouTube videos and stuff. I wasn't functioning very, very well. And so yeah, my family were crying and whatnot because they were just so happy, and I was like, yay, okay, can we get on with it? But one really great thing is that because it was working, they could take out the B. So ABVD, they took out the B, so it was AVD now from the chemotherapy. For some reason, this made treatment so much better. And this was really rare because I was constantly, during those first 4 months, like looking up, does it get better when they take out the bleomycin? Does it get better? Does it get better? And everyone's like, no, it's the exact same. It's the exact same. It feels the exact same. But they took it out, and I felt so much relief. It was insane. I stopped getting like shivers. I stopped feeling so horrifically bad, like violently bad. It felt amazing. It just felt so good. To the point where me and my husband think I might have been the tiniest bit allergic to the bleomycin that was in ABVD, because as soon as it was taken out, I felt physically so much better. And also in conjunction with that, just before my fifth treatment, my doctor, my psychiatrist, took away well, I think at this point the diazepam was already taken away, and gave me promethazine, which is an antihistamine, so for like hay fevers and stuff, but it has backing that it works for stuff like insomnia. And so they gave me it, and it works. I could sleep. So everything just in a moment got amazing. Everything got so nice, and I was living it up. Um, so pretty much from the fifth chemotherapy up until the 12th, the final one, that from February all the way through to the very end of May, in terms of chemo, it was plain sailing. It was pretty much, I would wake up and I was tired, I'd feel a bit sick, but I'd go out for a walk, I would chill out, I'd watch stuff, and I'd go to sleep. That was it. It was so much more manageable. Um, the only thing that I have noted down here of importance, actually, there's two little things. Um, the first I'll mention is brain fog. My brain fog was really, really bad. It was really, really bad. I struggled to remember things. I could not concentrate. Well, I couldn't concentrate on stuff that mattered. You know, I could probably concentrate on a YouTube video, but I couldn't concentrate on like trying to do any uni work or something. Um, I just my memory was so horrific. Um, I struggled to like piece things together in that kind of way. Which again my husband can attest to. My memory was really, really bad. He's shaking his head right now in agreement. Um, and the other thing was that I got depressed, pretty depressed, like really like kind of low. I got really, really low for about a month, maybe two. I can't really remember that much, um, but it was a decent amount of time. And I knew this was a good thing. My husband knew this was a good thing. My family knew it was a good thing. My psychiatrist knew it was a good thing. And in general, it's just common sense. Once the shock and anxiety of something starts to weigh off, you can actually start processing it, and therefore stuff like depression hits you. And so it's progress. I'm progressing away from the shock, but obviously I still have to get through the depressive part. And for me, at the very least, it was less about myself, like dying or aging or whatever. It was more about the idea of my family or my friends or my husband getting ill or dying or aging, that kind of thing. And that really, really got me low. That really got me low. Um, but I got through it. I got through it. It was never crushing. It was just constantly saddening, which sounds bad, but I still found happiness in my days. I just felt bad sometimes, and that's where people like my husband, who was with me 24/7, did not leave my side, was there with me every single second of the day, was amazing help. Anytime I was feeling bad, he would talk to me, he would just help me think a bit clearer, he would occupy me with video games or movies or TV shows or whatnot. You know, we would watch Hell's Kitchen, you know, after each chemotherapy on the first couple of nights, just before we go to bed, and that was always really, really nice. Um, and yeah, and during this period as well, I got really close with my family, um, which is really, really nice. Everyone was really, really supportive, but it was nice just talking to them in a more blunt way. Um, and yeah, I just really, really appreciate that. And people like my best friend Ross was amazing as well. Kind of amazing in a different way. Whereas like Luke was amazing for like the constant attention, Ross was amazing for the constant availability and not pressuring me. Because I know I've seen some people share their stories where they're like, oh, you know, I was going through chemotherapy and every single day my best friend would call me and text me and be like, yeah, you got this. I would have hated that if Ross did that. But he didn't, which is what I needed. I needed him not to do that. He would send texts pretty regularly being like, love you, man. Hope you're doing well. But there was no like pressure to hang out. There was no pressure to, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like, he gave me the constant feeling that he was ready to do shit when I was ready to do shit, but there was no pressure for me wanting to do shit, which was nice. Um, but yeah, so um, that was good. Again, got through chemotherapy, got through the depression and all that from it, and I would say, yeah, roughly it's like the first 2 months of chemo, I was in complete shock and anxiety, and I couldn't process anything. The middle 2 months, I was a bit depressed, and then the last 2 months, it was like just sheer happiness. I was like, I'm free, I'm gonna be free. And then on the 26th of May, I was free. I had my last chemotherapy. Um, Everything went to plan. I was all good. Happy, happy, happy man. Um, on the 20th of June, so a bit of a time jump, I got my final scan, and on the 27th of June, I got my scan results that showed that all the chemotherapy worked. The cancer was dead. Some really cool images, by the way. Like, I just really dig that. It's like the images where it shows you like it. It's kind of like here's your body from like your feet to your head, and it just slices through it, but like this way, slices through it so you can see all like the sections, and just seeing like the cancer in me, and then how it was now, and it's all like dead and crumpled up is pretty nice. Um, but yeah, um, that's pretty much the whole shebang. Every 3 months now for the next 5 years, I have to go to the cancer hospital and see someone where they'll check me up, make sure nothing's fucking up again. But that is an incredibly small price to pay for being alive. I'm excited to go into my third year of uni. Still waiting on some reset exam results because I had to reset a bunch of stuff, obviously, because fucking cancer. Um, but yeah, if there's any sort of comments you want to leave, please do leave them. If anyone watches this, and I will respond to the best of my ability. I'm trying to think that there is some other stuff. Like during chemotherapy, I would be on TikTok a lot, mainly because it's a great time waster, which in normal life is not a good thing, but when you're going through something like chemotherapy, especially in those first couple of days, it's amazing. If you can just sit there and time just flies by and you can get away from it as quick as possible. However, on TikTok, as you can imagine, I was engaging a lot more with people who are going through cancer, and therefore I was getting a lot of really dumb fucks like holistic, organic, natural medicine people. Oh my god, it's not, yeah. Listen to doctors, don't listen to people who tell you just like eat leaves. Um, it's so dumb. It's so. Do not listen to alternative medicine. The amount of cancer fakers there are is ridiculous. And if you ever see someone on the internet say that they beat cancer by simply, eating clean and going on juice diets and shit and having certain supplements, don't register any of what they just said because they're lying out their ass. Because that shit don't work. It does not work. If you do not take chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or radiotherapy or surgery to get rid of your cancer, it will kill you. So don't listen to that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, a 19-year-old, stage 3 Hodgkin lymphoma, and I'm alive. And hopefully, after 5 years have passed, I will be declared cured and never have to think about cancer again. Hopefully. um, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'll ask my husband. Is there anything I missed? Hmm? You can speak. What? Oh, okay, yeah. So he was wrong. It did happen before chemotherapy. The blood in my stool thing where I went to go to the night clinic. Yeah, so that's just yeah. That could have just been anything for that happening. You can get blood in your stool out of stress and stuff, so it could have been by that. And I had quite a bit of an issue with blood in my stool throughout the entire chemotherapy process, which is gross. I understand that, but like, it's just natural. It just happens. Um, oh, true, 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 true. So the thing is, like, yes, your hair here goes, but so does the rest of it, except from your really slow growing hair. Cancer attacks your fast growing cells, so This hair goes. This hair goes. These hairs go in here. Um, Other hairs that grow fast go, to be blunt. Uh, I'm trying to think. Oh, and I got really bad nail changes. Like my nails, like my thumbs especially, got like really dark, kind of like purplish during my treatment, which can just happen, and it means nothing really. Your nails can get kind of fragile, but that's about all I know. But yeah, I am about 2 months on from chemotherapy. Yes, you have nothing? Taste aversions. Oh my god, I completely forgot about that. I'll tell you one thing. On my very first chemotherapy appointment, while I was having the chemotherapy being fed into me, um, I had a cup of soup, and it was chicken soup. I had it. The next chemotherapy, my husband had that exact same cup of soup. And when it entered the room, not when he was having it with him, when he was sitting next to me, when it entered the room, I felt so repulsed. I was so sick by it. It was ridiculous. Until this day, I have an aversion to chicken soup or like brothy kind of like vegetables kind of soups that have like a decently pungent smell. For example, when me and my husband were on our honeymoon, he had some broccoli soup while we were out, and it was ugh. I could sit next to him while he ate it, but it still like I was feeling a bit queasy because it smelt that bad. Just that shows you how much chemotherapy can like fuck with your brain. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I'm really trying to remember if I'm missing anything. Can you think of anything? Oh, true. Yeah, can't go to the dentist during um, chemotherapy, which I learned a little too late because I had like dental work I needed done, and I could only get some of it done before I entered chemotherapy. But my teeth never were really a problem. Um, Again, just gonna say this: like these symptoms that I endured during chemotherapy were unique to me, and that you could get these symptoms as well, or other symptoms that I have not mentioned. Um, like for example, a loss of appetite. I never got that. I actually got the reverse. I got like bad hunger. I wanted to eat stuff all the time. Um, but yeah, you can get many things. There's things like depression after chemo, which I haven't got as much. I feel like I'd kind of had my bulk of depression during it. Um, and stuff like being scared of it coming back, which is completely normal. I'm a little scared of coming back just 'cause I can't imagine losing that much time. That was like the worst part about all this is that I lost about 8-ish months, 6 months with chemo, but like 8-ish months of like constant like, oh my god, cancer, 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 um, to just this whole thing, and during a really important time of my life, like second year of uni, I need to get shit done. I was in societies. I founded a society with my best friend. I was doing a radio show with my best friend. I was a student ambassador. I was a class representative. I had so much stuff going on, and I was going to go on exchange to Germany, and all of it's gone. All of it. Well, most of it. I'm still doing the radio show, but like a bunch of those opportunities are missed. But I'm being able to build it back up, and to be honest, I'm just grateful I'm alive. You know, it's kind of weird thinking about that. Like, if I was born when my granddad was born, I probably wouldn't be here, which is kind of freaky. It's kind of weird. That's a genuine thought, and for 99.9% of human history, that was the truth for anyone who got, say, Hodgkin lymphoma. And so I will be eternally grateful for the fact that I'm still alive, and I get to enjoy life, and I get to spend it with my husband and my family and my friends. So yeah, again, any comments, asking questions relating to my treatment or just general questions about Hodgkin lymphoma, please feel free to ask. And thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.